Humans in Dragon Ball have a reputation for being weak, undependable, and all-around jobbers. But what I don't think people understand is that humans are not weak. They're simply weak in the face of extraterrestrials with special powers that make them stronger. Dialogue in the Pilaf saga implies that Grandpa Gohan once clashed with a transformed Goku who had the Uzaru multiplier helping him out, and either beat him or stalled him until morning when he de-transformed. He possibly did this multiple times throughout Goku's childhood until the young Saiyan grew strong enough that the old man was no longer a match for his power level, with the Uzaru multiplier on top of it. But it's still a really good thing baby Goku got sent to Earth to escape instead of to conquer it, because base baby Goku could have been turned to ash by any Tenkaichi Budokai background fighter. Don't believe me? Earth once had Master Mutaito, who was strong enough to seal King Piccolo, an alien that grew much faster than humans. You may think he was just an outlier, but no. Dragon Ball is chock full of these characters who are beasts compared to the average human. And what's more, all of them add to the world building in subtle ways that might have escaped you on a first watch. So let's go through and see who could secretly be a cracked fighter, and might have the potential to be the strongest. If Goku didn't come along, that is. Note, this video will specifically focus on the old generation that got pushed aside when Goku came along. And it's not just age specific. If Goku stole the spotlight from them, they qualify. With that, there's no better place to start this video than the face of the old generation, Master Roshi himself. Master Roshi has numerous impressive achievements under his belt, including climbing Korin Tower and fighting against the Cat Master for 3 years to get the Mystic Water, achieving immortality from a phoenix, and winning 2 Tenkaichi Budokais. Master Roshi is meant to give an air of wisdom to the series. It's always been my interpretation that Master Roshi represents what happens when a fighter decides to go to the skill extreme of the skill and strength spectrum. Instead of grinding for strength, he opted instead to spend his centuries of training learning techniques to aid him in martial arts clashes, such as the after-image technique, hypnosis, drunken fist, pressure point freezing, and of all things, mind reading. His arsenal also includes more dangerous techniques that can be lethal if the user hasn't trained their ki enough, such as the Thundershock Surprise and Evil Containment Wave, with both of these having been noted to be last resort techniques. Then, there's the king of Roshi's moveset, the Kamehameha. His very own move he spent 50 years developing. Despite the Kamehameha purposely being designed to be easy to use with minimal ki drain, the absolute polar opposite to the Dodonpa, there is a variation of the Kamehameha that uses all of the ki left in the user's reserve, killing them in the process. With all these techniques under his belt, Master Roshi can be a lethal opponent to the unskilled, and capable of doing a lot of damage if he ever decides the situation has become crucial enough to warrant his sacrifice. But just because he drilled techniques instead of focusing on brute strength doesn't mean he's lacking in the strength department. On the contrary, he's accumulated so much strength he's become the only Earthling fighter in the series capable of transformation. It can truly be said that Master Roshi's only weakness was that he didn't find a better training partner sooner. We know in Dragon Ball, fighters grow faster when they have a goal to shoot for, and a partner to practice with. That's one of the many reasons Goku insisted on leaving Piccolo alive, so he didn't get rusty. But from what we've seen, most of Roshi's training was probably done in solitude. He puts the hermit in Turtle Hermit if you catch my drift. With the exception of the 3 years he spent with Korin, not having someone to train with greatly handicapped his potential. For reference, he went from struggling against Frieza Force fodder to tournament of power levels once he started training with Yajirobe. But now the only problem is that he has his aging body slowing him down. If Master Roshi in his prime had a group of characters like the Z-Warriors to adventure with, who knows how strong he could have gotten. While he did value his solitude and try to avoid the public, Master Roshi did occasionally take on students, with the fighters we follow along being the most iconic. But before then, he trained the Ox King and Son Gohan. Ox King would go on to amass quite the reputation for himself, spreading fear through several smaller villages, and apparently killing a few people to amass treasure for himself, and even conquering a castle to live in. Despite that, he's by far the least accomplished of all of Roshi's apprentices, having no notable battles under his belt, and having never mastered Master Roshi's ki techniques, meaning he couldn't have been taking his training too seriously. It's quite humorous to think that this guy once cut down people in cold blood, considering he commands no presence in any saga past the first one, and seems to fold under pressure quite easily. The fact that Ox King is a king could have implied his unsightly actions were done while seizing someone's kingdom for his own. More on that theory later. We've seen him just walk around populated cities in Dragon Ball unfettered multiple times, meaning his adventures weren't noteworthy enough to become anything other than backwoods legend, and certainly nothing on the same scale as Demon King Piccolo. Also, has anyone wondered why he was never arrested? As royalty, does he have some type of diplomatic immunity? Or is there a much darker subtext that law enforcement in Dragon Ball is in such shambles they can only station a few officers for appearances, and they're actually powerless to stop the rise of violent organizations like the Red Ribbon Army? My theory is, Toriyama just forgot about these few throwaway lines from 40 years ago. I don't even blame him. This isn't even a forgetting Super Saiyan 2 moment. I literally don't think 99% of Dragon Ball fans could tell you Chi-Chi's dad is a cold-blooded killer. Unlike Ox King, someone who did take Roshi's training seriously is son Gohan. It was him who Goku inherited his passion of training from, and without it, the story of Dragon Ball might have never happened. While we don't know a whole lot about him, we do know that during a clash with Roshi, which I'd like to believe was in the finale of the Tenkaichi Budokai Roshi won before the beginning of the story, but that's just headcanon, he lost to Roshi in an incredibly close shave, forcing Roshi to bust out the risky Thundershock surprise attack. His final power level is unclear, as Baba ranks him higher than Spike the Devilman, which would put him above the level of Tenkaichi Budokai winners like Roshi. But he still got pancaked by a version of Goku who had no training, and was coasting on the multiplier from the Uzaru. It's possible he trained in the afterlife like Goku would, but I doubt it. We don't know a lot about Gohan, which is something I'm going to say a lot in this video. But we do know that in Dragon Ball, it's very uncommon to pass down a last name, meaning you have to be a very highly noteworthy individual to be worth it. It's possible he's royalty, and diplomatic relations led to him forming a friendship with fellow royal Ox King. But that's straying way too far into headcanon, and we only care about author intent on this channel. While Gohan didn't get to set the record straight with Goku in this life, he did get to do it in the afterlife thanks to fortune teller Baba. While she's not a fighter herself, she provides a lot of insight into the history of martial arts in the Dragon Ball world, as she brings the world's strongest martial arts fighters back from the dead in exchange for fighting to entertain her. The fact that Dracula was ever considered top of the totem pole in the martial arts world must mean that the average Earthling was quite weaker long ago. We could chalk this up as a side effect of the chaos brewing in Universe 7 due to the leadership being understaffed after all but one of the Supreme Kais were wiped out. That was so long ago in the timeline, I think we'd have seen the ripple effect long before a couple hundred years ago. I'd personally choose to believe it was Jacko getting assigned the Galactic Patrol member responsible for Earth that kickstarted Earthlings getting stronger. We know that Jacko is comically inept at his job of keeping alien visitors away from Earth, so stray aliens popping up and being allowed to stay is probably what let Earthlings train past the human limit. But the first alien that would really put Earth to the test was King Piccolo. He's the one that would start the Piccolo Wars. The Piccolo Wars are one of the most underexplored parts of Dragon Ball, but we do know the situation got so desperate, all of Earth's armies were overran, and martial artists had to band together to save everyone. The Piccolo Wars ended with the death of Master Roshi's teacher, Master Mutaito. We've gotten criminally little characterization from him, with it being confounded to a single non-canon episode that wasn't even focused on him. We do know that giving his life to defeat King Piccolo made him a hero in the eyes of the people, and likely made people of the Dragon Ball universe start looking up to martial artists in the same way people of the real world look up to caped crusaders. That's likely to lead to an increase of the popularity of the Tenkaichi Budokai, and allowed celebrities like Mr. Satan to fast-track their careers. Master Roshi himself was a veteran of these wars, and long feared the day Piccolo would return. But he wasn't Mutaito's only student. Fighting right alongside him was the Crane Hermit. The English dub called him Master Shen, but no such name exists in the original, so I'm just going to call him the Crane Hermit. For an unknown reason, these two had beef with each other. It could have simply been that they were rival martial arts students under Mutaito, with differing philosophies on martial arts. Roshi viewed martial arts as a way to become a protector, while the Crane Hermit viewed it as a way to become a more efficient assassin. Unable to see eye to eye, they parted ways after the Piccolo Wars, with Roshi founding the Turtle School, and the Crane Hermit founding the Crane School. I wonder if Tien has to pay him royalties now that he runs the Crane School. While these two training under the same master would imply they were of equal strength, Master Roshi blows him away with a single Kamehameha. This might mean while he trained alongside Roshi, he was in a similar situation to Ox King and Gohan, and Krillin and Goku, where one pupil clearly outshined the other. The Crane Hermit is a great example that not everyone in this world views martial arts as a means to protect others. Some view it as a way to satiate their greed. Some like the Hermit's brother, Tao Pai Pai. Tao Pai Pai earned recognition for being the king of the assassins, willing to take any job for any price. He was also most likely top 5 strongest humans of OG Dragon Ball, with those above him likely being Tien, Krillin, and arguably being on equal footing with Roshi and Yamcha. I'm just saying, if we had to build a tournament of power roster out of fighters from OG Dragon Ball, he'd have a spot. While he was too young to participate in the Piccolo Wars, as he was only 2 years old at the time, he, Roshi, the Crane Hermit, and Mutaito are 4 characters that make up Dragon Ball's old generation. The old gen is a term used by most anime fans to refer to mentor characters that exist to be the strongest for a bit, put the main character through a training arc, laugh at how their 50 years of experience has been surpassed by a 15-year-old, then kick the bucket. Dragon Ball doesn't have a technical old generation because the story moved far too fast to establish them, but I like to call it these 4 because they all played an important role in Goku's growth. Master Mutaito saved the world and popularized martial arts. His only surviving students, the Crane Hermit and the Turtle Hermit, safeguarded Mutaito's mystic techniques, and Tao Pai Pai acted as the club bouncer. Mercenary Tao is like the evil version of Roshi. Unlike Roshi, who wants to nurture the next generation, Tao wants to kill the next generation. Tao also tries to exact revenge and reclaim the position as the leader of the Crane School during the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai. This is where we see him participating in a trend a lot of antagonists who belong to the old gen follow, and that's trying to hog the spotlight even after his time has come and gone. A lot of anime make it clear the natural progression of time makes it so the old gen must step aside and let the new gen take the reins, and those that stunt the process are undoubtedly evil. Goku defeating Tao was him officially surpassing the old generation and becoming the frontrunner for the new generation of martial artists. But he'd also have several human rivals trying to carve out names for themselves, the first of them being Nam. Nam has perhaps the most selfless reason for wanting to become a martial artist, so he can use the funding to buy water for his village wrecked by a drought. I don't know why it is, but life in Dragon Ball City seems like a paradise with these futuristic places to explore, while small villages are horrifying where you could get jumped by a shape-shifting monster who steals women, a rabbit who can turn you into produce, or a giant evil warlord. Seriously, why are the cities perfectly safe while the back villages are no man's land? The world may never know. Anyway, Nam's heart might have not been in it because he never appears again in the manga, implying he retired. But for having no teacher, no alien powers, and no food, he did pretty good for himself. I particularly like how he acted with grace and dignity even after the loss, despite the fact that everyone he knows and loves is going to succumb to the drought. It would have been cool to get a follow-up from Nam, but I like to imagine he's living his best life, hailed as the village hero, and his job of being the human measuring stick gets taken over by the next martial artist on the list, King Chapa. King Chapa is notorious for his 8-armed fist. When he's introduced, we're told he's won a previous Tenkaichi Budokai, and is the odds favorite for winning this year. Many of the sidecasts believe Goku has lost simply by virtue of being paired against him. I don't think it's unfair to say that King Chapa represents the peak of what's possible for humans without ki control. Yes, even more so than Mr. Satan. What's interesting is that we're never told why he's called King, and what makes me think there's more to this story is that Toyotaro appears to have made it canon that King Chapa was the one who taught Oob before Goku took over. If Chapa truly was a king living in a castle, how would he ever encounter a young boy from a starving village? It seems more logical to me that for Oob to convince a world-renowned martial artist to train him, they would have had to known each other for a long time, with Chapa likely knowing Oob since birth, meaning they would have had to have hailed from the same village. But if Chapa came from a small starving village, why is he called king? Well, remember how Ox King used to live in a castle? What if Ox King took the title of king by seizing it from King Chapa, forcing the king to flee with his subjects and try to rebuild? Maybe the reason Oob's village is in such a sorry state is because the citizens of King Chappa's kingdom were all ill-equipped for farming life, and quickly exhausted their food supply. Now this king, realizing he's become powerless in the face of extraterrestrials rising up, has no hope to save his subjects, but by training someone with more potential than him. If I'm being honest, this probably isn't true, because all of Earth seems to be ran by this one blue dog in the Dragon Ball verse. And I'm not sure how multiple kings ruling over the same territory would work, but cut me some slack. The 8-armed fist goes so incredibly hard as an attack name that I would have to try to give this guy any crumb of lore I can, especially considering he gets replaced instantly by Pamput. This dude was created as nothing but cannon fodder for Goku. He looks almost exactly like King Chapa, only younger. He acts as a foil for Goku, with both being martial arts prodigies. And, like Goku, he's been in 2 previous tournaments, with the only difference being that he won them both. I've always wondered what these tournaments could be. We're told nothing about them other than their smaller profile tournaments and not on the same level as the Tenkaichi Budokai, meaning we shouldn't expect the people who win them to be able to rival the strength of a Tenkaichi Budokai winner. Pamput doesn't do anything in the story, but his introduction does let us know that martial arts is valued enough around the world for them to be multiple sponsored tournaments dedicated to it, further building on how important throwing hands is in this verse. Also, for some reason, the anime tried to make him Luke Skywalker, stating he was known for starring in a movie that was obviously Star Wars. Why they did this, I have no clue, but the idea of a fighter who uses martial arts as a springboard to start his celebrity career is shockingly close to an actual character we get, and he's the last Tenkaichi Budokai winner we've not covered. Though I may be breaking the rules a bit here because he technically didn't rise to prominence until the 24th Tenkaichi Budokai, when Goku had already temporarily retired. I have to include him because no video on Dragon Ball martial artists is complete without him. Mr. Satan is the embodiment of fake it till you make it, with all of his fights, except for the one that won in the Tenkaichi Budokai, being staged. Everything about this guy is great, from his bombastic personality, to his very unsubtle cliché wrestler's name, to just the aura of manufacturedness about him in general. Mr. Satan is an enigma because Dragon Ball makes it clear that striving to improve yourself is what makes someone heroic, while being cowardly is evil. However, Mr. Satan appears to oddly reverse those roles, only ever being rewarded every time he lies, cheats, and steals. It's been long debated how far he could get in the series before being utterly steamrolled, and I'm sorry to break it to you, but the answer is he probably wouldn't even clear pre-training Yamcha. While he might not reveal anything to us about the strength of humans in Dragon Ball, he does show us about the star power martial artists have in this verse. Unlike most Tenkaichi Budokai winners who have reserved personalities and levels of discipline that would make them bad celebrities, Mr. Satan appears to have been able to market his Tenkaichi Budokai win to the point where he's one of the richest men on Earth, even owning an entire city. Stop and think about that. The man owns an entire city. Despite being a master manipulator, it's possible at one point Mr. Satan did desire to get stronger, and held beliefs more in line with the main character Goku. But his worldview was obliterated when the next martial artist on the list died, and that was Mr. Satan's teacher. Though we don't know how strong he was, we do know that he had his own dojo, meaning he might have been as experienced as Roshi or the Crane Hermit. It was him who taught Mr. Satan everything he knew about fighting, and might have even instilled some wisdom into him like Roshi did to Goku. For one fateful day, they were in a bar in South City, when Mark happened to make fun of the hairstyle of another occupant in the bar. This would be a huge mistake, as the owner of the hairstyle was none other than Tao Pai Pai, who killed young Mark's teacher as punishment, quashing his love of fighting. From that point on, he started fixing all of his fights, ensuring he would never lose. While Mr. Satan's teacher might not have impacted the overall story, it's heartbreaking to think Mr. Satan was so much closer to being a better person. But losing his only good influence corrupted him with greed, with his last honest fight being against Spopovich. While Mr. Satan likely went on to never think about Spopovich again, from his defeat in the 24th Tenkaichi Budokai onward, Spopovich would make defeating Mr. Satan his only priority in life. Like the Vegeta to Mr. Satan's Goku, while we don't know for sure, it's not entirely unrealistic to think he believes he's entitled to everything Mr. Satan owns. And if he hadn't had diarrhea during their fight, maybe he would be the one with the city named after him. With that in mind, it appears that martial arts is the form of clout chasing in the Dragon Ball verse in a similar vein to being an influencer in the real world. This could explain some of the rather odd people drawn to the Tenkaichi Budokai. I debated on whether or not to include all the cornball fighters that were made up to hype up Goku and Krillin, but in the end I decided to toss them in, because while none of them might be able to fight for anything, they do reveal something important about the world of Dragon Ball. One big complaint about Super is that it stopped being about martial arts and everyone just became a Ki Blast merchant. But what this crowd doesn't realize is that in the world of Dragon Ball, that is a martial art. This is a world where talking animals, demons, and magic are plain as day. Naturally, the buck would be pushed for what qualifies as a martial art. So stripping, being really smelly, and dumb are all fair game in the martial arts tournaments. Because in-universe, they are a martial art. Like Roshi said, if it has a funny name, it qualifies. While the Tenkaichi Budokai might be a gathering ground for those looking to hit it big by winning tournaments with a lot of clout behind them, it's also historically been a means to settle grudges. With it being how Goku and Piccolo settled their beef, how the Turtle Hermit School and the Crane Hermit School quashed their beef, and on a much smaller scale, how Krillin stuck it to his old bullies at the Orin Temple. While these bullies aren't worth mentioning for their martial arts skills, because, surprise surprise, they suck, their existence does confirm a fourth canonical school of martial arts after the Turtle Hermit School, the Crane Hermit School, and Mr. Satan's Master's School. This is the school where Krillin was dropped off at age 4 and trained until the age of 12. I don't think enough people appreciate that Krillin has been grinding since birth, but considering how mean those monks were, it's highly unlikely they incorporate any character strengthening into their routine like the Turtle Hermit School did. That's the unfortunate reality of the Dragon Ball universe. A decent chunk of martial artists use their skills to put others down instead of becoming protectors like our main characters. Those people often gravitate towards villainous organizations like the Red Ribbon Army, whom have leagues of their own superhuman-level fighters, such as Colonel Silver, General White, Ninja Murasaki, General Blue, and Staff Officer Black. It's unknown what about the Red Ribbon Army was compelling enough to make so many professional martial artists swear fidelity towards it, but they must have one heck of a good retirement plan considering the name of the Red Ribbon Army was known far and wide, and struck fear in the hearts of all that heard it. I guess it's possible none of these guys actually had to train for what they got, and instead were enhanced by Dr. Gero. I'm not saying on a cellular level like 17 and 18, but I could totally see Gero tinkering with these dudes' DNA so they got super strong without having to put the legwork into training. Blue's powers definitely seem like something that would come about as a result of Gero's experiments. While commanding an army of superhuman martial artists once helped them dominate the globe, in modern Dragon Ball, the organization operates with far more subterfuge, choosing to manipulate from the shadows of their shell companies instead. And finally, there's one more Earthling martial artist I need to cover. Though we don't know anything about the lore behind him, Olabu, a filler character created for the Afterlight tournament, was just made canon through chapter 114 of the Dragon Ball Super manga. The only thing we know about him in canon is that he did something special enough to warrant a statue. But if Toyotaro chooses to use his anime backstory, the lore implications are huge. For one, King Kai says that most of Earth's folklore is based off him. It's heavily implied Korin Tower was built to honor him, and he trained with King Kai, making him King Kai's second most powerful student. That last statement alone is all we need to put him above everyone who was training with King Kai during the Namek saga, including pre-Nail Fusion Piccolo. And even better, in the anime he gets a few hits in on Pikkon, who just finished fighting Perfect Cell, meaning you could make the argument he's above Cell's level. I have so many questions. For one, what threats was Earth facing thousands of years ago that pressed him to get that strong? I really hope we see more of him, because I cannot just be left hanging like that. But most importantly, Olabu should be an immediate counter-argument to the belief that humans in Dragon Ball are weak. Humans are weak compared to Saiyans and Namekians because they don't grow as fast. If you were racing against someone and they were allowed to go 100 miles an hour while you could only do 10, then of course you'd get lapped. Humans are a joke in Dragon Ball because they're stuck at 10 miles an hour. So there you have it. We'll be back to your regularly scheduled content next week. I just wanted to shed some light on some underappreciated members of the Dragon Ball cast, and how they give flavor to the world around it. Well, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find any Dragon Ball fans who say that Nam of all people need more screen time. Just getting to expand these characters' personality through flavor text would be nice. That's why the open world games are so goated. Anyway, I've been Ramble-san. Peace.